Rickwood Field is the oldest active professional baseball park in the country. It was built in 1910. Coincidentally, it was inspired by Forbes Field in Pittsburgh, where a lot of Negro Leagues history was also made. Who knew that it would become such hollow ground? Because it has bared history to not only many great major league moments and many great major league ball players, but it was also home for the Negro League's Birmingham Black Barons, another team born out of the ashes of American segregation that brought great joy to the African American community there in Birmingham for many, many years. It is a majestic old stadium, and I'll never forget walking on those grounds for the very first time. Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Buck O'Neal, they all played on that field. And man, if those walls could talk, how special it would be. Willie Mays, who as a 17-year-old walked on that very same field, patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons. No one would have guessed that this budding, inspiring ball player would become recognized, arguably, as Major League Baseball's greatest player.
Young Willie Mays steps into the box, all of 17 years old.
Boog, we talk a lot about how Willie Mays was a five-tool player. People focus on his fielding, his hitting, his speed, but you know, they forget about his arm. He actually started out as a shortstop, but threw so hard it hurt to catch his throws over his first base. So he got moved to the outfield.
Play at the plate.
Where I grew up in the country, you know how you learn to swim? They threw you in the pond. And you either sank or you swam. And that was much the case for these young athletes as they were moving into the Negro Leagues. You got thrown right into the pond with those older ball players, and you can either play or you can't play. Now, Willie Mays was a tremendous athlete. He's quarterback in high school. Ultimately, he had to cut deal with the high school so that he wouldn't lose his eligibility for football. This is a 17-year-old kid playing with grown men, and he more than held his own. They kind of eased him into it early on, but you can't hold that kind of talent down. No, this talent was just exploding at the seams. As a matter of fact, his first game with the Birmingham Black Barons, young Willie Mays collected 2 hits. On the way to what was about to become one of the most dynamic careers in baseball history.
Willie Mays digging in with a runner on first and 1 gone. Swing and a ball hammered left field back there. Banks off the wall. Jones headed for the plate. Now a relay to third, and he's in there. A run comes in on the play.
Willie Mays had 2 role models as a kid for how to play baseball. Joe DiMaggio and Willie's dad, Pat Mays, who was a steelworker and a star outfielder on the company team in the Birmingham Industrial League.
Tosses to first, and a quick out, number 1.
Cat Mays really gave Willie his love of baseball. He taught him to walk by putting the baseball on a chair a few feet away, standing him up, and encouraged him to go for the ball. Cat let Willie sit on the bench during his games, and that's where he got his baseball education, Boo.
swings through that one. You brought up Willie's baseball education, Chris, and it really stuck. His instincts were tremendous. One of his managers let Willie direct all the other fielders. The reporter asked why, and the manager said, because he knows more than I do. High fly ball, right field. Willie Mays steps to the plate with a chance to do some damage for Birmingham.
A lot of people consider Willie Mays the greatest player of all time. His longtime manager Leo DeRocher once said, if somebody came up and hit 450, stole 100 bases, and performed a miracle in the field every day, I'd still look you right in the eye and tell you that Willie was better.
And that one hops the wall. One run across. Hayes around third. Now 2 runs scored. Save. It's a triple for.
Well, what made Willie Mays so special was that he was a 5-tool kind of baseball player. And he did everything with grace and flair. As my friend Buck O'Neill would say, he was better than that.
But the crowd still loves Willie.
Willie Mays was never booed, even in the opponent's ballpark. That's the reverence that people had for Willie Mays, because he was so affable and he was so likable. Here's Willie Mays walking through the streets of Harlem, playing stickball with the kids. I mean, how special would that be to see that happen today? So you combine all of that with off-the-chart talent. You can see why Willie Mays is so beloved. People measure times in their lives by Willie Mays. They named their kids after Willie Mays. That's how special he was.
Willie Mays digs in with a chance to break this one open early for the Black Barons. The pitch. Up the middle. Whips it to first in time. But it's 1-0 as the run scores.
Willie Mays was really beloved across all of baseball. In his last game before joining the Army, he got a standing ovation in his last at-bat, even though the game was at Ebbets Field, home of the Dodgers. One writer said it was amazing because in Brooklyn, Giant is the...
A year the Stars reached new milestones and rewrote the record book.
Well, Willie Mays is easily one of the most iconic figures in baseball history. But before he was the Say Hey Kid, his nickname was Buck, Young Buck. 1948 Negro League World Series, the Birmingham Black Barons are facing those vaunted Homestead Grays that were still a juggernaut. And can you imagine at 17, you're in the midst of a Negro League World Series as a 17-year-old, and you're right in the middle of the action.
Far back, the ball it in.
And there's young Willie Mays helping the Barons win the lone game that they won in that series with a walk-off.
This is it, what? Lucini pouring from the sky, let's get rich, what?
I am sure it ranks as one of those special moments out of a career that is filled with many special moments. But at 17, you walk it off in a Negro League World Series game. That's pretty doggone special.
Willie Mays up now with an opportunity to walk this one off for Birmingham. Swing and a miss. Slider right
0-1. One ball, one strike.
And outside. This guy's got good power. With one swing, he can win it for him. Hardliner, ball game. Mays brings home the winning run.
My dear friend, the late, great Buck O'Neill, would say without hesitation that Willie Mays was the greatest major leaguer that he ever saw. Oh, John Donaldson, one of the greatest left-handed pitchers this sport has ever seen, knew the game of baseball inside out. So it was no coincidence that after his baseball career, he would become a scout, a great scout, because he had a tremendous eye for talent. And I guess you could say the big fish that got away was Willie Mays. And he knew young Willie Mays had superstardom written all over. Not stardom, but superstardom. And I think the legendary John Donaldson knew that he would never find another Willie Mays.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back.
And the fans go wild.
Willie Mays steps in for the first time in this one. Crushed. Left center field. This one's deep. Forget it.
There's a long drive way back.
Long before the catch was made there in the Polo Grounds, young Willie Mays had been patrolling center field for the Birmingham Black Barons. 1949 is when he plays his first game there. But this wasn't uncommon for Negro League teams. Negro League teams were oftentimes playing in Major League stadiums. They would rent those stadiums, and that is part of the reason why it took so long to integrate the game, because Major League teams were making money from the Negro Leagues. So Willie Mays had been patrolling that spacious Polo Ground center field, where I can tell you now, you needed the legs of Willie Mays to patrol center field in the Polo Grounds. When that ball went up, they were all yelling, "Go get it, Willie." And Willie went and got it. But the thing that is oftentimes overlooked, and it speaks to the cerebral nature of Willie Mays, was the throw that prevented the runners from advancing. Gives you an idea of how in tuned Willie Mays was into that moment. The Giants, of course, would go on and capture that World Series, beating another former Negro League, Larry Doby and the Cleveland Indians.
So here's Murphy now. The pitch. There's a long drive way back in center field. Mays racing for it. He got it. Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a tremendous catch. And he moves up 90 feet. Runners at the corners now. One away. Twenty-year-old Willie Mays steps in with a runner at first and 2 gone here in the first inning. Smoked into left, base hit. Throw stops the lead runner at second. 2 on and 2 out. Gardner back to work. And first offering is fouled off.
Well, these players putting together some really good at-bats in this game. There's been a lot to like with how they're approaching their chances at the plate. They jumped all over the starter and knocked him out of the game early. He just was never able to settle in, and the damage was done by the time he got the hook.
Now a wide throw to third.
The San Francisco Giants had the major's first all-black outfield. All three players were former Negro League stars. Hank Thompson, who was actually an infielder by trade, Willie Mays, and of course the great Monty Irvin. That was a tremendous outfield. But it also makes me reflect back to the fact that $25 kept us from having an outfield that could have been Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, and Monty Irvin. The Braves offered Henry Aaron $25 more a month. They outbidded the Giants, and Henry Aaron took the Braves' offer $25. But maybe it worked out the way that it was supposed to work out, because those two legendary former Negro League stars blazed their own paths to stardom. But I can tell you now, if you'd have had a lineup that had Henry Aaron, Willie Mays, and Monty Irvin in it, it would have been a nightmare for everybody they played. It just leads you to wonder what if.
Here's Willie Mays stepping in for the first time in this one.
You know, Willie Mays bookended his pro career with World Series appearances. He went in 1951 with the Giants and in 1973 with the Mets. And his first pro season with Birmingham took him to the Negro League World Series.
Slings it across. What a play. Inning over. Here's a story about Willie's character. When Peter McGowan bought the Giants in 1993, he gave Willie a lifetime contract. Several years later, Willie asked McGowan for an extension on his lifetime deal. That was so he could make sure his wife May was provided for if he passed away before she did. And the 1-0. Check swing. He went too far, and it's a strike.
Mays was great defensively at first base late in his career. After he robbed a bunch of hits against the Mets, as a 40-year-old, Mets manager Gil Hodges said, "I can't tell my players not to hit it to him. Wherever they hit it, he's there anyway."
The wind of the pitch. That one the other way. And this one could be extra bases. Throws to second. And now the tying run is into scoring position.
I can tell you my problems, meditating my silence. But I keep pushing my pen, rotating my stylus.
Segregation robbed us from seeing all the great stars take the field together. As baseball fans, we were absolutely cheated. How much better would our game have been? But what segregation also did was it created this enterprise known as the Negro Leagues. So while Rickwood Field once upon a time had been segregated, who knew that it would be Birmingham's blackberries that would actually become the toast of Birmingham? As we celebrate Rickwood Field and all the history that made Rickwood Field such a special place. But no one made it more special than the Negro Leagues. And there's been no more special of a ball player than Willie Mays. First ballot Hall of Famer. Should have been unanimous. But the bridge for him to the major leagues began in the Negro Leagues. Right here in this very ballpark, Rickwood Field.
11 gold gloves for his electrifying play in center field. His 660 home runs are third